Okay, so I'm gonna try to teach you how to study. Like, so, um, I'm a neuroscience major, and going to college was an interesting experience because the tests were a lot harder, and there's a lot more information to absorb. So, and because in high school, like the max I studied was like 3 hours, but in college, it was like 15 hours for a single test. So I mean, I was getting A's on the college test, but it was just really inefficient, and so I was trying to find different ways on how to study. So this is what I found after my first semester of college, and I just wanted to share it with you guys. So the first thing you need is motivation. Um, just find something unique about the course, or try to find something you can like relate to. For example, I find chemistry interesting just because it's interesting to understand how everything around us operates at the atomic level. And for biology, just it's interesting to find out how everything in our body just works and how we maintain it. And just find things that are interesting about what you're studying because it really helps because when that course becomes difficult, it'll help you push through. Because if you don't have motivation, you will hate your life while trying to study, and just overall, it'll be an unpleasant experience if you have no motivation. So the first thing to do when you're trying to learn how to study is how to understand how our memory works. So I took an introductory psych class, and a chapter was over memory, and this is what I learned. So when you study a book, when you study a paragraph, and you or just a sentence, and then you like close your eyes and you can see those words for a few seconds, that's called iconic memory. But this kind of memory just it lasts for like 5 seconds and then just disappears. So that's why cramming usually is really ineffective because it's such a short term memory that like you can't just stare at a paragraph and hope to memorize all of it. And if you try to retain what you just read, if you read a paragraph in a chapter and try to retain that information gets held into short term memory, which lasts 15 to 30 seconds. And what we usually do when we cram is we just repeat that information over and over. And what we're doing is called rehearsal, and it's where you keep resetting that 15-second timer. So if you temporarily store information into your short term, that lasts 15 seconds, and when you repeat it, it gets reset for another 15 seconds. So that's how short term works, and that's why we draw blanks when we uh, take a test. You look at the question and you realize that you studied really ineffectively. Just you can't remember what you studied because you just stored it in short term and you never tried to actually um, actively retrieve it. All you did was simply read it and just hope it like stuck. But that's not how our memory works because you have to make it unique. You have to make it stick out during the day. Your brain absorbs everything that happens the entire day. So when you're studying, you have to make that studying unique. Otherwise, it's your brain's going to see it just as the rest of the day, and you forget like a large amount of what you did during the day. So if you make studying just mundane, you're gonna forget that too. So the biggest thing is to learn how to um, convert that short-term knowledge into long-term, and that's what the next thing will explain. So the memory palace. The memory palace is really effective for this. So when you try to remember something, or the different studying methods right now are just like note cards and just writing notes and summarizing notes, or reading a chapter and writing everything you know. These are all good methods, but I found that memory palace is the best method. So this is how it works. Um, you take a place you know really well, like such as your home, and you place images representing what you want to remember in different parts of your home or wherever you choose. And then what all you have to do is just mentally walk through your home to remember each image which represents your information. It's a really like simple way, but really effective. Um, so for an example, so from psychology, the seven sins of memory, like one of the words was transience, and transience means that memories fade over time. So how I remember that word is I imagine my front door and I open my door, and for to create an image, I think the biggest problem that people have with the memory palace is um, trying to remember images that for really weird words is hard. For example, transience, like how would you create a image for that? It's weird. So what I do is I break the word into syllables. So I look at it and I see trans. Trans reminds me of like a train. So what I do is I imagine a train coming out of the door as I open it, and then I see the train slowly fading to represent transience, which is how memories fade over time. So, and then the next word is blocking, and blocking is the phenomenon where it's like the tip of the tongue feeling, where you you can feel like that knowledge or whatever, but you just can't access it. Uh, so blocking I remember as some like a guy from 300, the movie, and just sitting on my couch holding a shield, and and then he just holds up his shield. And that's how I remember blocking. So for just tips for how to create a memory palace, do it somewhere you know really well. First, try your first memory palace should be your home because you know it really well. Um, Designate places you want to visit in your home. For example, your front door, your couch, your living room, your kitchen sink, or just a variety of unique places in your home. And then for your images, if it's a concept, you can if it's a concept, break that, and if it's a hard concept to visualize, um, try to break it into syllables and represent something for each syllable. If not, just try to remember something that starts with the first letter. For example, if it's uh, transients, just remember like someone or something that starts with a T. So if I don't know if you have a teacher with has a um, name that starts with T, remember them, and then just so it reminds you of T, and then you can remind yourself of whatever concept you're trying to memorize. So so that's just how you do a memory palace, and it works so well because um, on a test, all you have to remember is that one place, your home, and you're not gonna forget what your home looks like. And then so you can just mentally walk through, and all your knowledge is there, and this is really good because you don't need especially for like an essay or something, you don't need like a multiple choice cue. Like you don't need the test to tell you. You can recall it at will. So I find it really helpful, and one of the best techniques to uh, memorization. So, but just because you can remember the name of the concept, sometimes the concepts need to be learned. So what you do is you take a new concept and relate it to something old. What that means is just for okay, so I'm learning chemistry, and so when you break a bond, you have to add energy to it um, to break it. So I just think of it as a glow stick, and you have to make it light up. What do you have to do? You have to break it. So that's how I think of it, and that you have to just relating old and new concepts together. Um, like try to make metaphors for whatever you're learning. Try to try, and also the biggest thing I've also is try to teach people, because not only do you gain new perspectives, but also just teaching people like sometimes makes you realize that you truly like don't understand it. Because if you can't explain it, sometimes I mean it's hard to explain, but um, teaching it, if you can teach it, you totally understand it. So try to make metaphors for stuff and try to teach people, and that will really help you understand concepts. And also just if it's like math, it's a concept, all you can do is just practice lots. Just practice hours of a variety of math problems, and you'll be fine. So the spacing effect can relate to any study method, but with the memory palace, what you do is you would remember something. You would create your memory palace throughout your home. And what you do is take like a 5 minute break, and then after 5 minutes, you quiz yourself. By quizzing yourself, I mean just mentally walk through all your places and try to remember all the images you put, and see if you can remember all of them. And then after 10 minutes, after 15 minutes, after an hour, you keep increasing the duration, because what this what most people do wrong is they just cram everything in and just repeat everything in short notice, and the brain's not it doesn't absorb information like that unless you're really good at that type of cramming. But for if you truly do want to know it for like long term, it's better to space it out, and you'll remember it a lot longer. Like cramming, you'll remember it for the test maybe, but for the final exam, you'll have to relearn everything. But the spacing effect really works, because like if you have the test and then a week later you quiz yourself again after the test, even though it's you really don't want to, you just quiz yourself, because it takes like 5 minutes to mentally walk through your palace, or so you through your mental palace, and so you walk through, quiz yourself on it, and then like the longer spaces and the more you can remember it, just the more knowledge that will be like cemented into your long-term knowledge. So yeah, and I mean this can work with any study method. So if you're doing if you just learn something, take like a 5 minute or learn something different, and then quiz yourself on the old subject. Like if you read the first page of a chapter, read the second page and then quiz yourself after a minute, and then on the first page. And so just increasing intervals, just keep quizzing yourself, but don't quiz yourself like constantly. You have to give your brain some time to help absorb the knowledge. How I think of it is like if you're watering a plant, you don't water like constantly, because you'll just flood the plant. The water will become too like soggy. So you just do a little bit at a time, so it can like soak into the soil, and then you pour a little bit more so it can soak a little bit more. So so then the plant will be healthier, and in comparison, the memory will be better into your long term memory. The final thing is sleep. I know everyone knows this, but no one does it. But if you have a test like on Friday, you should start studying Monday, if not like 2 weeks or 3 weeks before, because first of all, just a little bit each day goes a long way, because the more times you like learn a new knowledge and then sleep on it, the better it will go into long-term memory. So if you're learning something, just learn it right before bed, and then when you wake up, you will actually like remember it better. And then the more you do this, the better you'll remember it. So just get a lot of sleep, and before a test, and then I mean it also like helps you learn the next day. If you remember all of yesterday's, you don't have to review it. You can just start studying new material. And so, good luck studying. I hope this was useful, and just just remember to keep pushing on. That this is all worth it, and I hope. And the biggest thing from is not just for grades, but actually just take away something, just at least a few things from whatever you learn. So that'll make, because you spend this much time anyways. You spend like a year in learning a subject like biology or something. So you can at least take something away from it. And good luck.